Quick warning, this is Future Nick. I just finished wrapping up filming the video on this Gordon Carbine. It is a rambling one, and I'm excited. I hop all over the place, but it's just because this is such a damn cool gun, and there's a lot of stuff that happens. So, yes, it's rambling. Am I going to re-record it? No, because I think I hit all the points that I wanted to. So, without further ado, here's the video. Welcome back to the channel. I'm very excited because today we're talking about the Gordon Carbine. Now, before we get into the video, what's my relationship with the Gordon Carbine? Well, it is an extreme love relationship. This is a gun that I actually, sourced different parts, and it's a build. It's not clone correct, so cloners, like, hold your breath. We're going to talk about all that. But this is my 12.5-inch SBR Gordon Carbine with Otter Creek OCM5. Also, I have down here a Resto Mod Gordon Carbine from Type A. I am a dealer for Type A, so I do have a relationship with them, and this is actually a customer's gun, so I haven't shot it because it's going to a customer, and they're getting this gun. But we're going to be talking about if the Gordon Carbine is still an applicable gun, besides its cool looks, and if you're going to build versus buy something like a Resto Mod from Type A. And I'll just skip to the end. My recommendation is, unless you're going 100% clone correct, just get the Type A. It's going to save you a lot of time and actually a decent amount of money to go directly with them. So before we do the Type A discussion, we're going to talk about my build. I'm not going to go into the history of the Gordon Carbine. If you're watching this video, you've definitely seen other videos on it before. If you've watched Black Hawk Down, I grew up in the 90s. I was in high school when Black Hawk Down came out as a senior. I'm sorry. Yeah, I was a senior, I think, in high school when Black Hawk Down came out. And so I remember watching that movie, and the guns that really stood out for me were definitely the Gordon Carbine, the M14, and the MP5. So basically all the guns that were in there, because that was right smack dab in the middle of the assault weapons ban, and I lived in California. I didn't grow up in a household that had a lot of guns. We had some handguns like revolvers, some FUD crap. But nothing to this extent. We didn't have any AR-15s growing up or any assault rifles or whatever. And we didn't hunt. So when I watched that movie, I saw these guns, and I never thought that I would have the ability to actually own something this badass looking. But this gun always stuck out of my head. So when I saw Type A starting to do their Resto Mod Gordon Carbines about a year and a half, 2 years ago, it got that bug in me to start doing clone stuff. And now I've got, some things that are sort of clone correct, some that are Resto Mods. But I just love the looks of the Gordon Carbine, and I'm going to say right now, I'm going to say the word Gordon Carbine a lot because, one, it's cool, and the whole story behind Black Hawk Down, Operation Gothic Serpent, those guys are amazing heroes. Two, this is the best looking gun out there, period. And if you disagree with me, you're wrong. So let's just jump into my build real quick and start from what I did here. So let's talk about my build first. So how this came about was when I saw Type A releasing their Resto Mods, I placed an order for them. I saw the price, but I said, you know what, that's okay. I know they build great guns, but I bet I could do it for cheaper. So before we jump into it, the Gordon Carbine is like $3,000 depending on what, accoutrement you have on there. It's a little under $3 grand if you don't have the light. With the light, it's $3 grand. So there's that. But I said $3 grand for a gun that looks this cool. I'm willing to do it, but I bet you I could do it cheaper. I'm going to say I was wrong. This gun here, and I wanted to go clone correct. I had a real, cloner boner going on. And so I grabbed an A1 upper. I got the Aimpoint 3000. I sourced this, and I tried to source as many clone correct parts, and it ended up just being a total mess. Because if you watch any of the real amazing reviews, like 9-hole reviews and all that stuff on the Gordon Carbine, you know that it's really not duplicatable for the most part, because the original Delta guns were 14.5-inch. They weren't pinned and welded because they were government guns, I suppose. But it's a 14.5-inch, used the Ops Inc. Mark 12 suppressor with a collar, and those suppressors just don't exist anymore unless you're like some crazy collector that got them when you were in the service, I suppose. I don't even know how you get one of those original Ops Inc. cans. So if you wanted to go clone, you had to go with a 12.5-inch barrel, which is what I have on this gun here, and use an AEM5 from Allen Engineering, who was at Ops Inc. Well, there's a whole lot of issues there, just getting the AEM5s last year, and also just getting these the muzzle device and the collar and the whole thing to get the suppressor to work. So I very quickly found out that I wasn't going to be able to go fully clone correct, and if I couldn't go fully clone correct, I decided, you know what, I'm just going to make this gun as close as I can and still have it be usable. So I did the Aimpoint 3000, which was pretty expensive. At the time, A1 uppers were hard to get a hold of, so that was not super cheap. I went to Charlie's Custom Clones and got their 12.5-inch Gordon Carbine barrel, where they put the barrel together, they chop it, they thread it, they put the muzzle device on, which timing these Allen muzzle devices is kind of a pain. Shout out to Otter Creek Labs for this OCM5, but also they have a brake and collar kit that actually has some flats on it, so it's easier to turn with a wrench. I've used that before, but I can tell you right now, just getting this dimensionally timing done right is kind of a pain in the butt. Also, you know, the front sight gas blocks, I'm just not an armorer. I know it's not the hardest thing in the world to put on, but I wanted my gun to be done right, so I had Charlie's Custom Clones do the barrel with the muzzle device and the front sight post gas block. So that was, you know, not cheap. Sourced the handguard, and then when it came to the lower, I was going to use a Colt lower. I had an LE 6920 or 6930, whatever the M4 LE trade-ins are, and I was going to do that and do a Form 1 to make it an SBR to get the 12.5-inch on it. Long story short, the whole, and I know it's kind of going long, the whole thing ended up just being such a mess that I said, you know what, screw it, it's going to be my own Resto Mod, and I was already in deep, so I went ahead and just had Evolved Weapon Systems here in McKinney, they're also friends of mine, make me an SBR lower. I put the CAR 15, it's the Brownells CAR 15 polymer stock on it, and it is not, you know, the two position adjustable, it's the full adjustable stock. So right off the bat, all the cloners are like, you're out of here, this is not clone correct. I get it, but I just wanted to have the gun because it looked cool, and the more I started running it, the more I realized this is a very effective platform. I mean, this is honestly, at 12.5 inches, it's funny because that's like kind of the cool kid's barrel length right now. At 12.5 inches, this gun is easily the lightest gun that I have. And it is not even close to any of the other guns that I've got set up, any of the other rifles that I have. This is the lightest gun, and at 12.5 inches, you still have plenty of dwell time. I have not had any issues shooting it without the suppressor on it, but I'm going to be honest. I have this Otter Creek OCM5. The reason I got this suppressor is because the AEM5s were really hard to get. I heard that Ron Allen sold the company maybe, so we're going to start seeing more of the actual AEM5s out there, which still aren't clone correct, but it's close. But I went with the Otter Creek OCM5, which has, I believe, titanium baffles with the stainless steel you know, shell around it. And it's just a very light can. And I'll tell you right now that this is not only the best looking gun I've ever shot, but is the best sounding gun I've ever shot. There's nothing like shooting a suppressed Gordon Carbine with either the AEM5, the OCM5, or probably, you know, the OpSync suppressor as well. So that's what I've got up front. Down below, I do have, you know, the standard A2 style grip. When I had it built, I wanted to have it, you know, as close to what those guys were running as possible, and so I had just standard mil-spec thumb, safety, and trigger. And I can tell you, you know, while it was perfectly serviceable, I realized that since I wasn't going to be 100% clone correct, I might as well put what I want on there. So I did go with the Radian Ambi and a Geisley trigger, and I'll tell you that it just made this gun even more enjoyable to shoot. Overall usability, go see, you know, 9-hole reviews or any of these guys that like do accuracy testing with different barrels. Obviously, it's going to be barrel and ammo dependent. I'm just interested in, is this a gun that I would actually consider using? And I would say yes. In fact, this is probably my favorite gun to use just because of how cool it looks, how light it is, and it is just unbelievably capable. So this is not a clone correct Gordy. This is a Resto Mod in my version. Now, the one place outside of the trigger and the safeties that were, you know, mil spec that falls down on the job is this optic right here. The Aimpoint 3000 is late 80s, early 90s tech, and it really shows because it is not bright. It does not have good battery life. The contacts are finicky, and it really blooms. So it is not a very crisp dot. I don't know what the MOA is on it, but it's friggin' gigantic. So making precise shots on 12-inch steel at 200 yards was actually kind of a challenge. It's always on the second shot, man. Beyond 200 yards was very challenging. So not having the a magnifier and not having a very crisp optic is the only place this gun falls down. So if I were to use this more, I would actually replace the optic on it and make it more of a modern one, which is going to get me into the Type A in just a second. But outside of that, very cool gun. It's not very gassy with the suppressor on it because a lot of the gas is actually coming back around this collar a little bit. And it's just, it doesn't have the same back pressure as even modern cans. So it's kind of cool to see this older technology and how well it works and just how functional it is. God, I love this can and this gun. This is like magical. All right, here we go. So overall, my goal with this gun was to try to make a clone correct version instead of having a Resto Mod and saving money over the Type A. I failed on both fronts. This whole setup cost, I don't have the exact total, but it's going to be well north of $4 grand with the barrel, or with the OCM5 on it. I mean, just the barrel with the muzzle device itself chopped and set up properly, that was like 600 and some odd bucks. $900 for this Aimpoint 3000. I guess that's just the clone market where you're at. So this ended up being a very expensive non-clone correct gun. Now I also know that Charlie's Custom Clones is doing a 14.5-inch version with some type of OpSync style can with the collar, so you don't have to go and, you know, waste the unconstitutional tax stamp on the SBR lower. Which is kind of cool, but those are even more expensive. I think you're sub $2 grand because the can is part of the package that you're buying because the can is timed for the exact barrel, which I believe is what they actually did on the Gordon Carbines and the Delta guns back in the day. So with this gun, I failed on beating the price of a Type A, and I failed on being clone correct. So when you bring out the Type A and you look at it, and this is a pistol version with the folder, I know the clone guys are super freaking out, but you know, it's a Resto Mod. It's really not that big a deal. This gun right here, if I were to do it all over again, I wouldn't go clone it myself. I would get the Type A because it has all their parts in it. Their thumb safety, their 2-stage trigger that I love. They are using you know, a standard mil spec charging handle, and then they are using an A2 upper, which I actually think is a better upper than the A1 for, you know, your backup irons. So doing it over again, I would definitely just go right to Type A and get their Gordon Carbine because it comes with everything. It's pre-painted, it's ready to rock and roll. Now you can ask them not to paint it because I know painting a gun for me is therapeutic and it's part of the fun of getting a rifle. But yeah, this is just the place I would go. If you're going to go totally clone correct, just know you're going to be spending more money to get that 14.5-inch gun and find the right parts, especially in this market out there. So the place to go for me is to get the Type A Resto Mod. And this is a very capable gun to be able to compete with everything today. The only place that I would say outside of, my older optic here, the only other place that it falls down is going to be on the ability to mount a laser and have a good zero. I have lasers on other guns, so this is not going to be a night vision gun setup just because of the plastic handguard. I know there are solutions for that out there, but for me, this is definitely a daytime, nighttime, no night vision gun, but God, it's just badass. Oh, and the other thing I'm going to talk about here is the mount on top of the carry handle. If you look at it, and you look at, modern guns, and right now 12.5-inch seems to be the rage in the community, everybody's putting on, high-rise optics. So we've gone all the way around from mounting optics on top of carry handles to going super low with a good cheek weld and all the way back. It's like the special op dudes back in the 90s knew exactly what they were talking about. So as far as this height over bore and the optic height, you are not going to be sacrificing anything there with a Gordon Carbine than you would with any modern gun. So I'm going to say right now, this will keep up with any of your modern rifles that are out there. And it's just going to look 10 times more badass doing it. So hopefully I'll have some more content on shooting this coming up in the future. It's definitely my go-to. Mine and then Type A's. Like I said, Type A is the place to go. Hopefully, I fucking hit the steel on the first one and don't waste any more ammo. Yeah, buddy! Yeah! All right. Well, hey, you're still rolling, right? Let's just look at something. Look at his head. Can you see it in there? Here. We're not fucking around. Like, I don't know how those got there. That might have been me before, but this was what we were shooting and then transitioning to steel. So it's not like, just shooting fast and fucking missing things. Okay. Oh, I think the steel fell down.